Chapter 4. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare to her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. Proverbs 3:13-17. Summer in February, it seems so weird. According to Cindy's last letter, Southern California is getting soaked with a freezing winter rain. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying a hot tropical morning in the Great Australian Bight. Bare-chested and barefooted, I happily pace back and forth on the swim platform, peering diligently down at the ocean water reflecting sunlight at my feet. A light swell lifts and drops the stern of Alcyon, occasionally allowing cold water to swirl around my toes. I'm very alert to what is lurking just beneath the ocean's glistening surface, and not too far from my bare toes. 8 to 10 excited great white sharks. There are so many great white sharks rocketing back and forth that it looks like the Shark Express lane on a heavy commuter day. Tightly grasped in my hands is an 8 foot long pole spear, but it is not for my protection. This is a tagging spear. Glancing over at the lower end of the Zodiac ramp, I see Mark Blessington with a rope tied snugly around his waist. No, he's not the morning bait. He's using the rope for support so he can lean out farther over the water. He and I are in keen competition to see who can tag the most sharks. Michelle Delore is filming the event to provide a cinematic record. Mark grins and points just beyond the ramp with his spear. Looks like we're going to tie it up again, he shouts in his cultured British accent. The 15-foot long great white shark is rapidly pursuing a bait that Theory Stern is pulling in on a rope. The shark is on a torpedo course straight at Mark. It turns broadside at the last possible second to keep from slamming into the metal ramp, which gives Mark an excellent shooting angle. He rapidly pulls back on the bungee cord at the end of his pole spear, leans gracefully out over the water, and plants the tag 2 inches below the shark's gray dorsal fin. It's a perfect shot. Mark is visibly proud as he yells gleefully, "We're even, 2-2. Both of his sharks are bigger than your two mediocre ones," confides Capkin, who is standing behind me. "There is no such thing as a mediocre great white shark," I answer dryly. He did notice that it was a perfect shot, he adds with a grin. Before I can offer a reply, Capkin hurls a bait fish right over my shoulder out into the water. Instantly, I feel something wet and slimy on my bare back. "That better not be what I think it is," I complain. Capkin is pretending innocence as he playfully tugs on the rope, trying to attract the interest of a shark. "Depends on what you think it is. I think it's fish slime. I can't shake it off, and I can't reach it with my hand." "It's not slime." Capkin flicks it off my back. "Looks more like it's guts." I try to ignore Capkin, which is never easy, and focus on tagging the next shark that comes within my spear's reach. Each shark tag must be exactly placed several inches below the dorsal fin. The tags provided by the Australian Department of Fisheries, resemble long, thin spaghetti noodles with a serial number stamped on the side. A small barb inserted just beneath the skin anchors the tag. Filming the tagging gives the scientists an exact record of the shark when it is tagged. If the tagged shark is caught by a fisherman, the Department of Fisheries can determine how much the shark has grown and how far it has traveled since the tagging. Very little information is known about great white sharks. Our 2.5-year-old expedition is the most extensive great white shark research program ever launched. Jean Michel, who is always looking for a better way to do things, has improved upon the fisheries tagging system. Using tiny lead clamps, we add two colored plastic spaghetti pieces to each tag. This simple addition allows anyone to identify the shark without having to catch it. A very positive concept from the perspective of the shark. If a fisherman or any person reports seeing a great white shark with a yellow and red tag, we know instantly that it is Amy, the shark with the very bad attitude. This is why the placement of the tag is so critical. It's the dorsal fin protruding from the water that most people notice first. That makes it the ideal place to put the tag. It is also the location which will least bother the shark. So it is with great responsibility that Mark and I stand ready with our pole spears. Another 15-foot long shark passes too close to Mark, and an instant later is sporting a tag with a new name. I christen you Becky. Mark dips his pole spear over the retreating shark like a king pronouncing a knightship. We're one up, Theory bellows out the obvious. Time to use my secret weapon, whispers Capkin. Secret weapon? I'm intrigued. Capkin reaches into the wet burlap bag and pulls out a rotting mackerel. The fish is so far gone that its decaying flesh is held together with twine. Yuck! I back away from the stench of this really offensive fish. The smell is horrendous. That's a secret weapon? I've been saving her, grins Capkin. No shark is going to be able to resist her good looks and delicate bouquet. He gently places the corrupt fish corpse in the water and lets the tidal current take it out the full length of the rope. Get ready, urges Capkin. This won't take long. Right, I answer doubtfully. Barely 5 seconds later, a huge dorsal fin erupts from the water. It is the biggest shark of the expedition, a female fully 18.5 feet long. The great whites, this gigantic, have very broad muscular bodies. The massive shark looks like a nuclear submarine as it glides rapidly underwater towards the fish. Capkin doesn't get any opportunity to pull in his bait. The fish is gone in an instant. A swirl of white foaming water marks all that is left of it. The enormous shark is heading straight towards the stern of the Alcyon. She is fully 8 feet across from pectoral fin to pectoral fin. Most large sharks are scarred from various accidents and violent encounters, but this one looks perfect. A real beauty. Both Mark and I are keen to tag her. Whoever places the tag claims naming rights. I'm thinking that Cindy, my new bride, deserves to have this shark named after her. The giant predator passes under Mark, but is too deep to attempt a tagging. He shouts his frustration, then taunts me. That's my shark, he teases. Don't you dare put a tag in her. I lean out over the water as the shark looks to pass directly beneath me. I'm hoping she doesn't stay too deep. Abruptly, my wish is answered. The huge shark turns hard into Alcyon, lifts her head out of the water, and vigorously bites the windship's metal hull. I see a huge, lifeless black orb staring at my feet as Capkin urgently yells, Shoot! Shoot! Jerking the bungee to the full length of the spear, I anxiously wait for a clear shot. A shark this big has thick, tough skin. I'm going to get one shot, and I have to hit her hard to plant the tag. The shark's impressive choppers are ripping 4-inch long scars in the hull paint. Her eyes rotate backwards in natural defense of the shark's delicate pupils. Unable to see, the shark blindly works the metal hull with her powerful teeth. Then she shifts her bite to the swim step. I can't shoot even though she is just inches from my feet. The dorsal fin is still too far away. The shark lunges into the V at the stern of the Windship. Passing under the swim step, the dorsal fin is descending rapidly. I lean out. I grab Capkin's t-shirt for support and release the spear with my other hand, letting it shoot through my fingers without fully letting go. I feel a satisfying thud as the sharp spearhead penetrates the skin right below the dorsal fin. Before I can pull the pole spear out, the shark's tail smashes into it. I struggle not to lose the spear as it bends and twists in my hands. Then I feel a sharp tug as the damaged spear finally pulls out. The shaft is impossibly bent from the thrashing it took. Capkin thumps me on the shoulder in celebration as I attempt to straighten out the bent spear with my knee. Name her Bertha, Big Bertha, he shouts happily. No way! This is a majestic shark, and she deserves a really good name. I'm calling her Cindy. You're naming a shark after your wife? Of course, I smile. She happens to be a very pretty shark. With great satisfaction, I watch the huge shark swimming away and am startled to realize that I'm feeling affectionate towards the giant fish predator. At that moment, I begin to understand something important about great white sharks. They are not the nasty man killing machines that Hollywood loves to portray. Sharks almost always ignore or avoid people. If sharks seriously went after human beings, we wouldn't even be able to get into the water. Instead, sharks should be viewed in accordance with their true nature. They are perfect creations that serve a very important purpose in the ocean. Great whites cull sea mammals herds, which keeps them from overpopulating. Sharks help maintain the ocean's balance of life. They scavenge dead animals, which might otherwise spread disease to healthy marine creatures. Of great interest, sharks are not known to get cancer, a fact that one day might aid us in our research to cure this horrible disease. Great white sharks are also fun to watch. In a way, they remind me of dolphins with an attitude and a buzz cut. I'm in a terrific mood knowing how pleased Cindy will be when she hears that I named such a magnificent shark after her. Unexpectedly, there is movement under the swim step. A dorsal fin surfaces from under Alcyon, slicing through the water just beyond my toes. It is so sudden my reactions are instinctive. Stretching the rubber bungee cord 2/3 of the length of the pole spear, I quickly aim and release, and am shocked to see that I have just tagged a baby great white shark. Well, not exactly a baby. The little predator is fully 6 feet long. Unfortunately, its skin isn't as tough as a mature great white shark. The spear's barb penetrates almost 2 inches deeper than it would normally would. The little shark thrashes free and then bolts away. Watching the little shark disappear into the distance, I'm feeling completely miserable. I doubt the injury will cause the shark any real problems, but I did cause it significant pain. Lowering the still warped spear, I climb off the swim step, and lean the tagging spear against the bridge, intending never to touch it again. From now on, I will only capture the great whites with my camera, and will leave the tagging for others to do. Going down to Captain Cousteau's cabin, I pull out my journal and begin to record the day's events. As the expedition leader, it is my responsibility to keep an accurate record for the expedition's logs. As I write about tagging great white sharks, I can't help being slightly astonished at the excitement and wonderment that I'm recording. This adventure is now a part of my life. As I inscribe the little shark's tale into the text, it becomes a piece of memory that fits into the puzzle of who I am and who I am yet to be. Every instant in life is an opportunity to learn and to grow towards becoming a better person. Yet the most important aspect is who am I today, because this is the real me of the moment. Through honest self awareness, I can see my values and my faults through the perspective of my actions. It is our physical actions that define our real character. If I had accidentally hurt the little shark and not felt immediate remorse, I doubt that I would like myself very much, and neither would you, the reader. If anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. Each one should test his own actions. Then he can take pride in himself without comparing himself to somebody else. Galatians 6, 3 to 4. I have a mental exercise that I try to do regularly. I actively seek out the things in my past that cause me to shudder when I remember them. Sometimes it's an almost forgotten event from my past, such as a childhood social blunder. Other times it is a more immediate incident, like tagging the baby shark. I always know when I stumble across a memory that causes me inner pain because I will inwardly shudder at the thought of it, rather than mentally hurry past the wound. I pause to deeply ponder the injury and try to heal it. I recall what I did wrong and why I did it. Then I pray and ask the Lord to take this wound from me as I promise to try to do better in the future. The result is I can then remember the event without the automatic inward shudder, and I go forward with the promise of trying to be a stronger, more focused Christian. What lies behind you and what lies before you are tiny matters compared to what lies within you. Emerson. Leaning back into my chair, I mentally relieve the thrill of seeing the 18.5 foot long shark as the giant predator swarmed silently beneath my waiting spear. What would the youth of my past, sitting on the secret ledge, have thought of this exciting moment? What was once a child's daydream is now a living reality. In a reminiscent mood, resist I can't resist journeying backward, sorting through my memories to recapture lost instances of my youth. Setting the journal aside, I reach under my pillow for a thick notebook. Now the beginnings of a manuscript for a book I'm writing with great hopes. I want to share the directions my life has taken, both the good and the bad, as a possible educational tool for youths to help them realizing their own dreams while avoiding the pitfalls that can lead to real life nightmares. I remember joining the Navy right out of high school with high hopes of becoming a frogman. Only 17 years old, I was the youngest recruit in Company 434 at boot camp in San Diego. Just prior to graduation, we were issued our orders. Unfortunately, the Navy didn't feel it needed a 17-year-old frogman recruits. So instead, I was assigned as a boilerman to a guided missile frigate headed for the Tonkin Gulf off the coast in northern Vietnam. Forced to work in the sweltering heat of the boiler room, I desperately sought ways to still achieve my frogman dreams. I volunteered for extra assignments, helping to rescue downed fighter pilots. I continued to work on my physical conditioning and took college correspondence courses, all aimed at becoming a Navy diver. For 4 long years, in just as many tours to Vietnam, I couldn't break out of the job assignment the Navy had selected for me. Though I had early on my transferred from boiler rooms to engine rooms and finally to auxiliary division, where I attended to the ship's small boats, I couldn't free myself from the role the Navy had cast for me. It was discouraging to realize that the Navy had complete control over my life, that I was just a small cog in a huge military machine. Finally, in desperation, I wrote a letter to the naval captain in charge of naval diving operations in Washington, D.C. I explained to him my intense desire to be a Navy diver. I shared how I had tried to focus my childhood dreams into physical reality, but hadn't been able to overcome the administrative system of the United States Navy. I mailed the letter from Vietnam with high hopes, but nothing came of it. We sailed back to the United States and returned to our home port of Long Beach, California. As the shore party secured the ship's heavy hawsers to the pier, a telephone line was strung to the quarterdeck. The officer of the watch later told me that the connections were barely made before the telephone rang. The call was for me from the chief of naval diving operations. He thought I would like to know that my letter had reminded him of his own childhood dreams to become a diver, and how he too had been frustrated by naval administration. He wanted me to know that he had just signed a set of orders directing me to second class hard hat diving school in Washington, D.C. Though I had hoped for underwater demolition training, I was thrilled to finally be heading for an underwater career. Yet I wondered, as a hard hat diver, naval school diving and salvage is located in on the Anacostia River at the Naval Yard in Washington, D.C. There are 12 of us diving candidates standing before the diving barge wearing khaki swimsuits, blue t-shirts, and parachute boots. This morning, like all future mornings, begins with a 3 mile run and a half an hour calisthenics. After morning orientation, we hit the pool for our first water activities. We began by learning a new way of swimming with one hand while the other hand clutches a 10-pound lead weight in a metal bucket to our chest. So swimming, two of my classmates make immediate express trips to the bottom of the pool, which happens to be 24 feet deep. In a few moments, in the few moments it takes to fish them out of the pool, our class is reduced to 10. Watching the two students sadly walking away, I realize how quickly my childhood dreams could be ended if I'm not alert and focused. After bull training, we're sent out to a diving barge on the Anacostia River, where we are introduced to the World War II vintage hard hat diving rigs. They are known as heavy gear because each rig weighs 198 pounds. It takes two tenders to dress out a diver. The first diving cadet of the class, also known as the victim, is always a volunteer, or, in the words of our instructor, which of you idiots is fool enough to want to be first? Is with mixed feelings of excitement and real fear that I slowly raise my hand. I don long underwear, heavy socks, and the blue knit cap. It will be cold in the river. A horse collar is placed over my shoulders. This is the padding rectangle that will prevent the breastplate from bearing down directly on my shoulders. Next comes the rubberized canvas suit, a pair of leather and brass boots and lead insoles, a heavy breastplate, and a 70-pound weight belt. As my tenders lower a spun brass and copper helmet over my head, I can't help thinking that this antiquated diver rig hasn't changed since its introduction in the 1800s. Just before one of the tenders closes the glass faceplate, the instructor leans down right into my face. Dusty Rhodes is a thick-muscled bosun's mate with a hardened attitude. I don't think you're going to make it, Arrington, he taunts. Yes, I will, comes my instant reply. He is referring to our first test, which only requires that we walk across the bottom of the river, stretching out our diving hose to its full length of 200 feet. I bet you can't do it, he leers. It isn't a friendly look I'm getting. If you don't stretch out the hose to its full length, you have to buy my lunch. What do I get if I stretch it out? I answer boldly, trying to sound cocky and full of self-confidence. Actually, I'm not only extremely nervous, the oppressive weight of the rig is making it difficult just to sit up straight. Well, I guess you won't have to buy my lunch then, will you? Gleefully he clamps the faceplate closed. He pauses to eye the diving suit to make sure everything is hooked up correctly, then thumps the side of my helmet with a meaty hand. Sit up straight, Arrington. You're making the rig look bad. Two more thumps on the top of my helmet is the signal to stand. The rig weighs 30 pounds, more than I do as I awkwardly shuffle walk across to the descent ladder. Have to climb down 13 rungs to the river. Then, as I disappear just beneath the surface, the muddy water closes above me. It is a very strange sensation to feel the old canvas suit compressing against my body from the water pressure, increasing airflow into the brass diving helmet. I grab the descent line. Diver leaving the surface, I announce into the helmet speakerphone. Underwater communication is the hard hat rig's only improvement this century. Roger, comes the reply, heavily laced with static. Slowly I begin to lower myself down into the dark water. I continue down in the cold, wet darkness. Then at 33 feet, hit bottom. Cold mud oozes up around my heavy boots and clings above my knees. Diver on the bottom, I say nervously. Roger, diver. Commits, hold stretch. The scratchy voice is my only companion. I mentally cling to it in the dark loneliness of the river bottom, standing in the sticking mud with ice cold water seeping into my suit. I peer into the total blackness without a clue which way to go. I take two stumbling steps forward and run into a vertical wall of thick mud. Must be the riverbank, I think to myself. Turning to the right, I take several more steps and am again confronted with a barrier of mud. Continuing to my right, I trace the wall of mud. It doesn't end. Ugh, topside, I say anxiously into the speaker. I think I'm standing in the bottom of a deep hole. That's a Roger, diver. Dusty Rhodes' static-filled bark fills the helmet. I used a water blaster to dig that hole. Soon as you climb out of it, you can stretch that hose out for me. Doesn't take very long to realize that there is no way I can climb out of the hole. My heavy leather and brass boots just sink into the mud wall as I attempt to climb. Not sure what to do, I abruptly hear Dusty say. Diver, this is a drill. You have lost all communication with the surface. The speaker, always emitting a soft hum of static, goes ominously silent with a final sounding click. Okay, Arrington, what are you going to do now? I asked myself. A couple seconds later, the rig loses air pressure. I feel the weight of cold water forcing loose pockets of air from the canvas suit. With no sound from the speaker nor from the air inlets, it's deadly silent like a tomb. I'm deciding if panic is a good option when I hear the speaker phone switch on. What you gonna do, Diver? Rusty sounds almost pleasant. Diver thought he might like to buy the instructor's lunch today, I offer hopefully. Roger, Diver. Excellent idea. Rusty is quite happy with himself. My air comes back on. Then I feel myself lifted and carried to one side. Once clear of the hole, I'm dropped in a heap back onto the river bottom. Diver, you have 5 minutes to stretch out the hose. If you fail, I will drop you from this class right after you buy my lunch. Racing, stumbling over sunken obstacles lodged in the mud, I breathlessly feel the hose go taut 4 minutes later. I'm feeling the blush of success when Rusty commands, Okay, you got 3 minutes to make it back to the barge. With only the hose as my guide, I run in slow, clumsy stomps across the river bottom until I feel the hose tending vertically. Panting out of breath under the barge, I am exhausted as the tenders begin hoisting me up. 6 feet from the surface, I see the first brown tint of daylight. Then moments later, I surface at the base of the ladder. Diver on the surface, I dutifully say, mildly pleased with myself, then begin to climb the ladder. The first couple of steps are tentatively easy, but emerging from the water, I discover that this heavy gear makes climbing really difficult. I'm reminded I remind you that the rig weighs 198 pounds, plus my 168 pounds, plus around 5 pounds of river mud, which means I'm carrying 371 pounds up the vertical ladder. On the seventh step, I have to rest. There are 6 more rungs above this one. What are you doing, Diver? Rusty sounds impatient for his lunch. Resting topside, I pant breathlessly. No one rests on my ladder, idiot. Climb it up now, he growls. This is it, I realize. If I don't make it up this ladder, they'll send me back to the fleet. All my dreams of being a diver are suspended in this one instant in time. I just have to climb this lousy ladder. Let me help you, offers Rusty. I'm wondering how he intends to help me when I see him gleefully shutting off my air again. Realization that this instructor might actually succeed in ending my dreams is more than I'm willing to bear. I thrust my heavy boots upward, grab a rung, and pull myself to the next one. 6 steps in 30 seconds, all the time rebreathing the stale air in the suit. But I make it. At the top of the ladder, I'm desperate to reach the dressing stool so I can get this helmet off. But Rusty steps in my way. Where do you think you're going? He bellows. I don't want river mud all over my clean dive station. I anxiously wait while one of the tenders hoses the mud off my boots and canvas suit. Then, as I wearily stagger towards the dressing stool, Rusty stops me again. I am at the end of my leash as I rebreathe the little air left in the rig. It smells like my long underwear. Rusty peers into my faceplate from an inch away. I hear hard diver hats I hear hard hat divers can't dance, he challenges. This is an old hard hat divers tradition. Whenever a heavy diver is challenged to dance, he must perform a short, soft shoe shuffle before being undressed. Each of my boots weighs over 17 pounds. It isn't much of a dance that I do yet. It is with a light tap dance that I take my first real steps towards becoming a Navy diver. When the brass helmet is finally lifted from my shoulders, I deeply breathe the fresh air and weakly grin at my classmates. Okay, bellows Rusty. Who wants to be next? In the Cousteau cabin, I chuckle at the memory of Rusty selecting his next reluctant victim, then more soberly realize that I had failed to climb the that had I failed to climb the ladder or hadn't done the hard hat dance, I might not be in the Cousteau cabin today. In life, we are presented with many trials and tribulations. Some of them will stand as major crossroads in our lives. None of these events can be approached with a frivolous attitude. Our decisions and how we react to them will determine who and what we will become. Sometimes it is really difficult to overcome an obstacle or pass an arduous test. Yet it is these achievements that act as stepping stones to the next challenging plateau. The view and our hopes and aspirations improves with each rung of life's ladder that we climb. It is wise to direct your anger towards problems, not people. To focus your energies on answers, not excuses. William Arthur Ward.